reap what you sow. Just very bad politics by the Democrats.
One of those Supreme Court justices were literally lost by McConnell just robbing a president of the right to seat a judge. Nobody remembers that Garland was supposed to be on the Supreme Court for almost a full year. McConnell said, we're not going to have that hearing. That is indefensible.
Let me bring in Michael here.
Oh, my God.
Tommy has to leave in a moment. So, Michael, come to you, then come back to Tommy for a final wrap from her. But, Michael.
Destiny, the principle that you're articulating that a president should be able to put a judge on the court in an election year, or rather that you say Mitch McConnell violated, was a rule first articulated by Joe Biden in the 90s when he was trying to kill George Bush's judges. So,
in this video, woke streamer Destiny and Michael Knowles clash on a Piers Morgan Uncensored panel. Destiny and Michael Knowles debate the topic of lawfare used against Donald Trump. With that, let's watch Michael Knowles humiliate woke idiot Destiny.
Apparently, people will vote for a corpse over Donald Trump.
They will, and please let them do it. Let the partisan Democrats do it. I'm now all in on the Democratic rhetoric. The Democratic primary voters have made their decision. They want Joe Biden as their nominee. It would be an assault on the integrity of this country and on our sacred democracy if they replace him now. I can't wait to see him in all 50 states. At this point, obviously, the man is not up to the job. So someone else is running the country, whether that's Jill, whether it's Ron Klain, whether it's, I don't know, whether it's Barack Obama.
Do you know what's really interesting, Michael? This is really interesting to me, this panel, because if we'd gone back, 3 months, you'd have all been shouting at each other, arguing about Trump. The two siding to the Democrat side here on the panel, you've been neutered by what's happened. I can feel that the luster has gone. The enthusiasm to beat up conservatives has just flown out of your bodies. I mean, there's not been one argument. You've all just sat there going, we agree, he sucks. Your own guy sucks. He's barely alive. You've lost your fight, haven't you? Biden has removed the fight from Democrats. That's what I'm seeing here.
Absolutely. Actually, I agree with that.
You agree?
I totally disagree. No, if Donald Trump is taking insane, again, the Supreme Court ruling today is unbelievable. The idea that instead on today's show, we're going to focus on whether or not Biden had a bad debate performance is just reflective of the, I don't want to say agenda in a negative way, but of what you want to talk about today on this program. Like, I think that the decisions that are being made right now legislatively in the Supreme Court are more important, or that are being made in the Supreme Court are more important.
You know why that's happening?
Whether or not Biden has a bad.
You know why it's happening? Because Trump was able to put 3 judges on the court in 1 term. You know why that was? Because you put up a terrible candidate, Hillary Clinton. It was
So Piers observes that the left-leaning folks on the panel have kind of had the wind taken out of their sails after Joe Biden's horrible debate performance, and they weren't as ready to pounce and scream and yell on the Republicans. And the Democrat girl on there said, yeah, I kind of agree with that. And I'm not a fan of her at all. I can't remember her name, but at least she's being honest. Destiny says, no, not at all. And what does he bring up immediately? Donald Trump. Now, I think this is an older clip when Destiny just had Trump derangement syndrome, because now we all know he has full-blown conservative derangement syndrome. So he's not quite as unhinged here, but he is obsessed with Donald Trump. I mean, he didn't even respond to the question or the observation that Piers made at all. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Incredibly polarizing, very arrogant, very superior, and she got flatlined by Trump when no one saw it coming on the Democrat side. And secondly, some of your Democrat judges who should have known better decided they weren't going to resign. They weren't going to retire. And because of that, Trump was able to pack that court. So I'm afraid you reap what you sow. Just very bad politics by the Democrats.
One of those Supreme Court justices were literally lost by McConnell just robbing a president of the right to seat a judge. Nobody remembers that Garland was supposed to be on the Supreme Court for almost a full year. McConnell said, we're not going to have that hearing. That is indefensible.
Let me bring in Michael here.
Oh, my God.
Tommy has to leave in a moment. So Michael, come to you, then come back to Tommy for a final wrap from her. But Michael.
Destiny, the principle that you're articulating, that a president should be able to put a judge on the court in an election year, or rather that you say Mitch McConnell violated, was a rule first articulated by Joe Biden in the 90s when he was trying to kill George Bush's judges. So obviously there was a decision today. It said that the president has some immunity for criminal acts or acts committed in his official capacity as president. And this is based on a 40-year precedent. And so it really goes all the way back to the Marshall Court. Really nothing should be surprising about this. And yes, the Democrats are upset. They're
not
inveighing.
True. This is
Just
based
let me
on
finish
precedent.
1 second, Destiny. They're inveighing because they say we should be talking about the immunity case. Well, part of the articulation of, I just was reading the decision, was that, look, this is the first time that you've got a president who's being prosecuted in this way. And that's the problem, because the vast majority of Americans, right, left, and center, have been saying in survey after survey that they view the prosecutions of Trump as primarily politically motivated. They view this as kind of corrupt. And that's one of the reasons why Biden's poll numbers have been so bad for so long. And so they throw this Hail Mary to do a debate in June before either party has settled on a nominee. And it completely blew up in their face. And so no wonder people want to talk about it. You've got a political order that is fraying. You got a guy trying to put his opponent into an orange jumpsuit. And it turns out the guy who's trying to do that, it has applesauce for brains. No wonder people are concerned.
You know what? The American people, a bit like the British, I think would be the same.
If you like watching videos like these, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
In this position, they can smell a political hit job. And the fact that the first case that was used against Trump to try and convict him and put him in prison involved a payoff to a porn star 20 years ago for a supposed one-night stand, or whether it happened or not, that just smelt to them like a massive overreach. Whether he did it or not, they didn't care. As though the idea that the first American president in history to ever be convicted of a crime in a criminal court is convicted over something so pathetic and trivial. The American people, the right-minded, reasonable people who are not in the kind of mad tribal ends of their parties, all went, well, that's ridiculous. And actually demeaning to the country. Destin, I could see you thoroughly agreeing with everything Tommy was saying there.
It's just, Francesca, I think is the name. I agree with her. The thing that Democrats suck on, that we're missing, is this blind allegiance to a leader, literally no matter what he does. It is the engine that powers Republicans. It allows them to lie for their leader. It allows them to excuse horrendous actions by the leader. It allows them to look at a president and, for after decades of saying, oh, we need to limit the power of government. Oh, we need to limit the power, say, well, maybe the president should actually be above most criminal prosecution. Also, as a quick thing, you keep saying that, no, it's just partial immunity for official acts. What is an official act of the president? If you actually listen to the oral arguments that were presented before the Supreme Court, what that act even is, and the ability to even probe for it, is stuff right now that is now presumed to be immune. For instance, just a real quick thing. When Donald Trump is asking Pence, hey, can you throw out the election because I don't like the results, which is a real thing that happened, by the way. As much as Trump's like to say that's not true, that is counted as an official action because these are the roles of the president and vice president, deciding how to count the electoral votes. That is insanity to me. If Biden were to do anything even remotely similar, Republicans would lose their minds.
Have you read the decision? I know it just came out this morning, but have you gone through the decision yet?
I read up to page 25, and part of it, I can read it out to you. He explicitly calls out that whenever the president and vice president discuss their official responsibilities, they engage in official conduct, meaning that presiding over the January 6th certification proceeding, at which members of Congress, yes. So that
was an interesting back and forth between Michael Knowles and Destiny about one party trying to prevent the other from appointing a Supreme Court justice when their party has the presidency. There's a theme in this video, and then every other video you see with Destiny, is he genuinely believes that I think he genuinely believes that only Republicans are guilty of wrongdoing. Because Michael Knowles pointed out that, well, Joe Biden kind of set that precedent in the past, and he didn't have a response, and he went on to whatever other nonsense he was about to spout. I really like the way Piers Morgan expressed how he felt about the crime that Donald Trump was convicted of. He's the first president in the history of the United States to be convicted of a crime, and it was for a hush money payment to a porn star. I don't like it in political debates when someone says, well, so-and-so did this, and then your first answer is, what about this person? But in this case, I'm kind of doing that because I want to say, do you not think of all the presidents in the history of this country that we couldn't find a significant number of them that could be charged with a very similar crime. As a matter of fact, we know that Bill Clinton did that at least once, and that's no issue to anyone. He's a hero to the left still. But this kind of lawfare, not to mention everything else, the impeachments, the kicking him off Twitter, assassination attempts, calling him Hitler, a Nazi, and I'm leaving 100 things out, but all the things they've done against Trump is a whole new level of attacking your political opponent. But the lawfare piece, I think that Joe Biden and the Democrats thought they were really slick in doing that. They were going to keep Donald Trump off the ballot, and it backfired spectacularly, in my opinion. One reason I think they believed they could get away with doing so is that they believe the American people are idiots. And Piers also made the point that the American people can smell a hit job when they see it, especially on this scale. And when Donald Trump's mugshot came out, then there were pictures and memes and people almost celebrating it. I guarantee for, I don't know how big of a percentage, but could be a very small percentage, but there is a group of people out there that was the turning point, that they were like, okay, if they're going after this guy this hard, then he must be doing something right, because it appeared to those people that the ones going after him seemed to be the crooked ones. In my opinion, this lawfare, or using the DOJ to go against, in my opinion, this lawfare or using the DOJ to attack your political opponents, I think it sets a bad precedent, and I don't think Trump is going to just say, I had a problem with this person, I'm going to go after him. So I don't think he should do, as the liberal media dubs it, a revenge tour. However, there has been so much crooked stuff. I'm talking about the Democrat Party, but on the right too. And I don't support anybody, on the Republicans just because I vote on that side that is found guilty of wrongdoing. But there are people out there that have committed crimes and done some heinous things, and there just seems to be zero accountability in Washington. So I hope that during Donald Trump's administration, again, not just going after people because us Republicans don't like them, but people that broke laws, lied under oath in congressional hearings, whatever. I just hope there's some accountability, because a new precedent could be set that we don't care what level of government you're at. If you legitimately break the law, you'll be investigated. And if you're found guilty, there will be punishments. But I don't think we should set the precedent of a Democrat president gets in and they go after their political opponent. Then a Republican gets his revenge. Then a Democrat gets their revenge. I don't want to see that just for the country, even though I think there are a lot of Democrats that should be thrown in jail and the key thrown away. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
That did count as official conduct. So if you thought that he was trying to do a coup, try to steal the election by saying, hey, do you think you can throw those votes out? Well, that's beyond prosecution.
You can dispute or object to any actions that Trump takes, but it is simply the case that when a president is carrying out his duties and is speaking to his subordinates in the White House, that is obviously official business. If he were to bring in a bunch of, drug dealers and hookers or something, that would probably be an unofficial crime, not related to his duties as president. And the reason that this matters and why it's really a moderate decision is because it goes back about 40 years to Nixon versus Fitzgerald, which found out that the president, yes, indeed, has quite a lot of immunity from at least from civil liability. And then the reason that this is such a novel bombshell case is because until Joe Biden tried to throw his rival into the clink, we didn't prosecute presidents, because that's the kind of behavior typical of banana republics and tin pot dictatorships. But the argument, and I'm sure you've read this, even if you've just read the first 25 pages, goes all the way back to the Marshall Court. It goes all the way back to the finding that the presidency does have certain privileges. It's not totally beholden to the other two branches of government. It's got an executive privilege. We have a separation of powers here. It goes back to the Federalist Papers when the framers of the Constitution said that they need a vigorous presidency because the problem with the first American Republic, which was the Articles of Confederation, was that you didn't have any strong executive power. So this is not something new. This is a perfectly in keeping with the American legal tradition. And now the Democrats are really upset about it, not because it's an upending of American jurisprudence, but because they're going to actually have to run on their guy. They're not going to be able to cheat and throw the guy in jail or take him out of banish him to St. Helena. They're going to have a fair and square election, and they know they're going to lose it.
Yeah, can I just ask a quick question? I just want to hear just a quick question. Yeah. So you're saying that if a president were to order the assassination of a presidential opponent in an election, you're telling me that if he thinks it's for national security reasons, you defend that as being...
It's just impossible for leftists to concede anything or acknowledge the truth. I mean, Destiny would just admit that it was wrong for Joe Biden to go after Donald Trump the way he did, and again, make him the first president in the history of the United States to be convicted of a crime. They wouldn't even be on here having this conversation right now. It'd be a whole different topic. And he could just say, yeah, that was wrong. But he can't do that. He can't ever just acknowledge reality. Anyway, he's frustrating. But we want to hear from you. What do you think about what I said earlier? Do you want to see Kash Patel just go in there and start going after every single person that, has wronged Trump, has persecuted Trump, and attacked him via various methods over the last, 8, 12 years? More, maybe? Or do you think the Republicans should take the high road and do the opposite in an effort not to set a precedent like that? Or, and I imagine this is a lot of you, do you think you should be somewhere in the middle? Are there certain people you really want to see him go after? And, that's kind of your list. So kind of don't set the precedent, but prioritize some people that have blatantly broken laws. Let us know. Anyway, as always, really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.